Hi, I'm Grace at Coherent, and today I'll be showing you the traffic director design to tie together the underwriting rules and the rating. And as you may recall, the traffic director is essentially a Excel model that's uploaded to Coherent Spark, and it'll help make dynamic routing decisions. So sending data to the right or appropriate downstream model. And what that means is it can help you orchestrate workflows across different services or even different versions of a service. So in today's example, I've got a multi-state workflow where I've got, say, 50 different eligibility rules algorithms, one for each state, each with different versions. And then similarly, I've got 50 different rating algorithms, each with multiple versions as well. And I'm trying to price a property policy, and I want to run it through to the correct or appropriate version of the eligibility rules algorithm. And then I want to determine if it's either an accepted policy or a declined or referred. And if it's declined or referred, then I want to go ahead and send that note back over to the core system. But if it's accepted, then I would want to go ahead and quote it by sending it or calling it to the correct version of the rater. And then I want to send those rating outputs back to the core system. And so with this design, instead of having to manage, a whole bunch of separate integrations for each rules algorithm or each rating algorithm, we can actually use this traffic director model instead here, and this would simplify it into one integration to the core system. So essentially what the traffic director would be doing is it would receive inputs from the core system, and then it'll go ahead and decide which rules algorithm to call based on defined logic within the traffic director. And then if it determines that it's eligible, then we'll go ahead and route those inputs to the correct rating algorithm and then return those results back to the core system. So let's go ahead and see this pattern in action. So in Spark, I've got a folder and I've uploaded all my services used in this demo. For this example, I have a rule service and a rating service for Florida and North Carolina, and they've got up to 2 versions each for the simplicity of this demo. So let's go ahead and take a look at our traffic director Excel model now. Now, the traffic director is relatively flexible, so you may have already seen different use cases for it already, but what I mean by that is it can be set up to do any sort of routing you need to between services or versions, but at its core, what it's really doing is it's relying on the inputs from the core system to drive its dynamic routing. And so in this example, I've got my inputs that will be coming from the core system here in the green. So these inputs are going to be tagged up as X inputs in this traffic director. And some of them will dynamically help determine the right path of the rater or the rule service to call and then eventually send those inputs to. But essentially, those inputs would need to help make 3 sub-decisions for each call to the rules model or the rating model. And those 3 sub-decisions will be which folder, which service, and which version of the service to call. And then this would dynamically be mapped into the path of the XCall, and then the traffic director will direct those inputs from the core system into that appropriate rater or rules model. So here I have folder, service, and version of the rules and rater. And this will all have logic in them to determine or to make that decision of which to use. And you could build this however you like with whatever logic you need or want, but as long as it results in the folder to use, the service, and the version of the service. So Since all of my services are within one folder, I have a default folder here, this traffic director demo, as you saw earlier. And then within the service for the rules and rating, I have logic in here to decide which service to use. And in this case, my service name is based on state. So here I wanted to use the Florida rater and the Florida rules. And then within the versions of the service, I'm doing a lookup using the state and the policy effective date off of a decision table that I have here. And so in this decision table, if it's, this date and then this effective date, then use this version and whatnot. And I'm using I'm using a combination of lookup formulas here to get at that. Again, you can build out this logic however you'd like, as long as you land on these 3 sub-decisions using the path, within the XCall. So again, that folder, the service, and the version of the service. Then you can use the XCall to send all the needed inputs from the core system into the appropriate rules engine. So we'll specify the path in the formula of the XCall, send those inputs and to that path, and then receive the outputs. So for this policy and its set of inputs, we would need to call version 1 of the Florida rules. So we're going to use that path in the XCall, and then the XCall will send those necessary inputs to the rules engine, and then in this case determines that it is an accepted policy. Now in the premium output, I have logic in here that if the policy is accepted based on the rules above, then send the inputs to the determined path, which is the Florida rater version 1, and then return back the output premium. So here we are. And then these outputs would be tagged up as X outputs, so that when you upload this traffic director model into Spark as a service, you would be able to receive these outputs back to the core system when you call this traffic director service. So this was an example of using the traffic director to tie together the underwriting rules and rating. And this is a very powerful design because it can help you save a lot of time in your integration. And it also keeps all of that business logic within Excel so that it can be maintained by the business folks rather than having to rely on the tech teams. And we'd be happy to help you out with this integration if needed. So please feel free to reach out with any questions. But other than that, I hope it was helpful, and thank you for watching.